What's up, guys? Toast again from Fishyaker. Welcome back. It's kind of snowy and dreary outside, so I figured I'd sit here in the man cave in the studio and talk a little about Ned rigs. Unless you started fishing yesterday, you probably already know all about Ned rigs. You probably got a whole tackle box full of mushroom jig heads, Z-Man soft plastics, and any number of other manufactured, basically 2 to 4 inch stick baits that you can throw on that jig head and work on the bottom and catch just about anything. But I was kind of wondering why Z-Man is a gold standard for these. Most of us already know about Elastec being a floating soft plastic, being almost indestructible. But let's take a look. Let's talk about it, go through the history a little bit of these lures, and then take a look at what makes this different underwater and why, as I said, this is the gold standard. So as you can see, that was just on a standard ball head jig head like these. It wasn't even on a flat head mushroom jig head, and it still stays 90% upright all the time. And if you put it on a flat jig head, it's going to stay perfectly vertical on it. Again, that's the benefit of using the Elastec from Z-Man. Like I said, you can get other manufacturers that are still floating plastic, but this is easy right out of the box. So that's why people consider the Z-Man basically interchangeable with the term Ned rig. And some people will say, hey, if it's not Z-Man, it's not even really a Ned rig. Debatable, but anywho. But that's why the Ned rig really works. It's going to look like a dying fish or a minnow that's feeding on the bottom or a crawfish. It's got a really natural presentation to it. And again, you can upscale it, you can downscale it. You're going to get a little bit more action out of the tail depending on the length of your hook shaft. But this catches fish when nothing else will. But I just want to talk about why Z-Man Finesse TRDs are the gold standard. I'm not putting down other brands, but this is, like I said, kind of, you know, when you think of Ned rigs, you think Z-Man Finesse TRDs. They really work, guys. Like I said, the big thing on these is that vertical presentation because they float. And like I said, you take one like these, you can super glue them to the head, and they'll last you, if you don't lose them, heck, months. But remember, if you get these plastics and you store them with other plastics that aren't Elastec, it's going to be a big mess. They're not going to last long. And you can get a pack of these at a local big box store even for, I think, $3.99 most of the time. So between $3 and $5, you can pick up a pack of these. So not super expensive. You're going to probably pay more for the jig heads. But like I said, you can use other type of jig heads. Don't feel that you have to use that mushroom jig head. There are other options for you. And again, you can get that Elastec, whatever you use. You can get other new presentations that they have now that are shaped like other creatures and things like that. They're not all just these little mini sticks. But this is basically your definition of a Ned rig. And it's come a long way in the last 40 plus years to where we are right now because of the technology of the plastics. And because, like I said, other manufacturers also making those floating plastics. Like I said, you can't find these locally. Just find some old school, heck, I've done it before, like old school 1980s bubblegum floating worms. Just take them, cut them into sections, stick them on a jig head. It's the same thing. It's really how it all started anyway. All right, guys, that's a little bit of the history and why the TRD, soft plastic, Elastec, Finesse TRDs from Z-Man are really the gold standard. They really work. They catch a lot of fish. And if you're getting really frustrated because you're not catching a lot of fish, it's the dead of winter or the doldrums of summer and nothing's really biting, everything's got lockjaw, try it out. You know, I remember as a little kid I was using like mini tubes and stuff like that. This is that on steroids. That really does work. When nothing else bites, you can get them on this. Alright guys, if you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe to the Fishyaker YouTube channel. Share the video on all your social media outlets. Give us that thumbs up, and we'll catch you on the water.
Fishyaker.com, the original kayak rigging video series.